Hello everybody. In this section, we're just going to quickly go over what we did in class on Saturday, which is developing a button that is clickable and goes to various scenes in your game. And this is going to be very helpful for you guys to lay out your structure and get a better idea of how things look and how everything else kind of works. Alright, so right here I've already logged into my Unity project or logged into Unity, and I'm going to go ahead and click a new project. You could open an existing project if you want, or you can follow along and just start a brand new one. It's up to you. So I'm going to click on new. It's important that you name the project. So what I'm going to do is just button example just for now, and then it's important just to click on 2D. If you do 3D, you can change it to 2D, but it'll probably load some extra assets and things that you might not necessarily need, and so you could just avoid it by clicking on the 2D. So I'm going to click on create project, and then we're going to have this load, and once you get in here, this is your scene. If you hit play, you get this nice blue background. Remember, when you're up here in the play section, unplay it, don't hit pause. That's different than actually exiting back out completely. Now if you accidentally do play and then you do pause, anything you do isn't going to be saved per se. Okay, so it's important that you just unclick play. Okay, so now that we're here, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna import, well, I'll make a folder. Let's make a folder called scripts, and then I'm gonna make a folder called images, and then I'll make a folder called levels. And this is just so that we stay organized. Okay, if I click in levels, we have nothing there right now. So so the important thing is up here you're gonna see the different the name of the scene, the project, and what version or what layout we're using. We're gonna go into the file and build settings just to make sure that one, we switch it to Android. I'm getting them done at school, so for now just use the web one, but I'm just going to show you how it looked like if I did the Android. Okay, and then you click on switch platform, and this here now changed. Okay, what that does is it automatically changes this camera size to an acceptable level for Android development. Now the other thing is you want to make sure every scene is added to this build scene section, or you can't jump from one to the next. So notice how I said, oh, add this scene. This scene hasn't been saved because it's still untitled. So I'll tell you to save it. This is nice that it does it right here. So then what you can do is, if you actually open this up, in your assets you have level, and then I'm going to say this is going to be level 1. I hit save. Now you see right down here in the lower left, level 1 is added, and up here it's in the build scenes. Okay, so as long as that's all there, you're going to be okay. So just make sure you go through those processes. Now the next piece we get to play with is the background image and a button. So I'm going to right click in this hierarchy gray area and go to UI. Let's install an image, and the great thing about this is it installs the canvas and the event system for you, and you're like, okay, well I got this going. If you double click on your canvas, you'll zoom back out to a level where you can kind of really figure out what's going on. Okay, and then you click on your image and you're like, okay, I got this, where now you could kind of scale this accordingly. Okay, and we'll talk about camera views and viewports and stuff like that later, but right now this is just get us going. So now we have this all set up, and it's like, okay, so what I really need now is an image. So in my assets folder, I have a folder called images. I'm going to import an asset. you could do drag and drop, do whatever you want. I'm just gonna pick something from a previous game that I've made, and it got imported here. Now the thing that you have to do is make sure you click on image in your hierarchy, and once you do that, in the inspector section, which is on the right side of your window, you're gonna see where it says source image and it says none, material none. We're gonna just drag this image into there and see how it's swapped out. So it's like, okay, perfect. Now if we hit play, you're gonna get to see, all right, so this is kind of how it's shaping up right now. Okay, now once you have an image in there, I'm just gonna go ahead and add a button. And once you add the button, it shows up in here in the canvas underneath the image. If you double click on button, you get to zoom in and actually see the button. Now if I hit play, the button just looks like this. Nothing really fancy, okay? This is just showing you how that piece works, okay? Now if you click on the arrow where it says button, you could go to the text. You could change your text. So I say go to level 2, right? And it's like, okay, you could change the font, the size, the alignment, all sorts of stuff, okay? You could also just swap it out with your own button. So if I did that, let me find a button image to grab. Okay, let's say if I wanted to use this one. So if I go to button, once you have it installed, if you go to the right, you'll see where you need to drag it. If you go up, you'll be able to replace it, and it replaced. However, notice how you have this text behind it, and this is really scrunched up. So what you really have to do is understand what the size of the button is, and this size is 770 by 332. Now you don't necessarily have to use that huge of a size, but you know, it's just important that you keep it relevant to the actual button size. So if we divided 770 by 2, so what was it, 385 by okay. I mean, now if we click on canvas, it's a rather large button, okay? Pretty big, but it gets the point across. Now we want to get rid of the text, so I went into the button, got rid of the text. And now if I go here, it's nice and clean, and it doesn't have any of that stuff, okay? So now the next thing we need to do is, first we got to save. So remember, always save. If you're using a Mac, Command S, or you could always go File, Save Scene, and that way then you know it's being saved. This needs to get dragged into there. Okay, there we go. And then the next thing that we want to do is we want to create another level, because if we write a script and we're trying to go to the next level and the level doesn't exist, it's not going to work. So we're going to go to File. We're going to do New Scene. And you'll start from a blank set again. And what we're going to do is go File, Save Scene. Alright, click in Levels. And I'm just going to call this Level 2. So I hit Save. So now if I click in here, I have Level 2. Now the other thing we need to do is go to our build settings and just add Level 2 to this list. Okay? So now that you have that. Alright, so you got your level. I'm going to just go through the same process of adding an image. Let's fill this up. Oh, oops, actually, let me click here. That way you could see all of it. All right, and then we're going to add a button. And there's the button. Double click. And what we're just going to call this button, we're just going to do text right now. We're going to say go to level 1. To level 1. That way then we could just get each level to go back and forth, okay? We're going to hit save, and now we have our level 2 made. Not the greatest, but we get the point. Okay, we're going to now go into your assets folder in levels, and you're going to see where it says level 1. If you double click that, you're back into the first level. And so let's kind of, there we go, right? And so now what we get to do is make a script. So in your assets folder in the project down here, you're going to click on scripts. Inside that, we're going to create a JavaScript. Okay? So, and we're going to call this change level. Okay? Now, once you do that, if you click on it on your right side, you'll see what's here. If you want to edit it, if you just double click it, you're going to get Unity's scripting tool pop up, and it'll be blank, but what it'll do is it'll allow us to begin coding. Okay, so once we're in here, the one thing we need to add into here is the scene manager information. So what we'll do is we'll type in import space Unity engine dot scene management. And what this will do is this will allow us to use the ability to switch levels in scenes. And it's a different change from previous versions. Before we used to use application load level, but this UI has now added this feature into this piece, and this is kind of the way that Unity is going to handle this now. So now that we have this piece here, you import that. We're going to make a function. So we're just going to call this function. Let's just call this level 2 for now. That way it's easy to understand. You can name it whatever you want, and as you get more familiar with writing and that, you might want to label it differently, but for now we want to understand that this level needs to change to level 2. Alright, now the next thing we have to do inside here is just make sure that we understand how to write the code into changing it to the next level. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in scene manager dot load scene, and then in open parentheses the other scene. And in this case I capitalized the L, so I'm going to do level 2, and then you close it. Now if you hit save on this, you can go back to Unity, and in the console, if you did something wrong, it would tell you. Now let's go back into my editor, and let's say I did a lowercase l. Now once it saves, you should be able to go back here and see how it pops out an error going, oh, you wrote this, but you probably meant this. Okay, so this tool is very important for you to use, and give it a second. Sometimes it picks it up right away. It does take a second to refresh and apply into Unity, so you know, just be a little patient. So now that we have that, if we hit play in our thing and I click on this, nothing happens. That's because we still haven't really done much other than just code what this does. Okay, so what we need to do is click on button, and what we're going to do is we're going to attach this script to the button script, and to do that you could just drag your script over, and once it's there you'll see it down here. Okay, so that means that this script is now available on this object. You can put this script anywhere you want. It's just important that you know where that object is and what it is. Okay, so now that we have this script attached, what we're going to do is right above it in this button script, you're going to see where it says on click, and right now it's empty. So what we want to do is hit the plus button right over here, and then you get a row, three options embedded. First is runtime only, so you could leave it at that. on click, it says non-object. If you click right next to it, you're going to get this window over here. Now I'm going to drag this window here so we can see it. We attach it to the button. So if you double click button, it goes away and it shows button here. Okay? And then the function opens up. So we get to choose a lot of these functions. Okay? Now we put a script called change level. So we're going to go to change level. And then inside change level, we called a function called level 2. So we're going to click on level 2. Once we do that, this changes to the JavaScript, and this changes to what it needs to do. Okay? So once you do that, we're going to hit save, and let's test it out. Alright, so if I hit play here, I'm going to look over here, and I went to level 2. Okay? Now it's important that when you want to start editing again, you push the play again. You'll end up back in this level. And let's go through it one more time. It's up in level 2. So I'm going to go to level 2. Got my white background. Click on my button. Now find my script. Go here. Now the interesting part about this is, wait, hold on. This script only goes to level 2. So if I'm level 2, it's really pointless. That's correct. So what we need to do is add a new function into our JavaScript. So if we open up our script, what we can do, which is nice, is copy, paste this. Let's call this, let's just change it up here, level 1 and level 1. That way you know which level you're going to. You're going to have multiple buttons and clicks in a point and click type game. So if you use the naming conventions of level 1 goes to level 1, then you know for sure you're going to the right spot. Okay? If you use names that don't necessarily make sense, then you might confuse yourself later on down the road. Okay? So now that we have that, I'm going to save it. Go to my button. Since I already added it to my button, it's already there. So no need to re-add it. Okay? So we'll go through the process for the on click. There we go, we got button. And then in here, we go to change level. This time we're going to go to level 1. Okay? So now that we've done that, we could hit save. And now when we hit play, go to level 1, and see how it's just going back and forth. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but at the same time, this is how you would create a button that goes back between scenes. Make sure you review this, and what we need to make sure we have in Unity is all of our screens created with buttons going back and forth. That way, all we have to do is now start to design how each interaction is going to happen, and then we could work on developing the rest of what this game needs to do.